Folks, do you believe that President Biden should do more for the stimulus checks? The price of gas continues to climb across the United States, causing ever more pain at the pump. Proposals to give drivers some relief have been put forward around the nation from its gas tax holiday. Like New York, that just went into effect. 2 direct payments as was approved in Maine. Lawmakers in North Carolina are trying to convince their GOP colleagues to do the latter. Senate Democratic leader Dan Blue said, "We want to put more money into their pockets right now." However, Republicans who control the legislature will prefer to put in place longer-term tax cuts instead of a one-off measure. Democrats introduced Senate Bill A97, which dedicates $1.3 billion of the estimated $4 billion budget surplus the state collected over the past year. They will give people who are residents in ages 18 and older a $200 tax rebate. Supporters will consider extending the payments to younger residents of the state. And Senate Leader Dan Blue said, "We need to do it in a way that does not hurt the bottom line of the state budgeting process." If approved, the rebate will be issued as either a check or a debit card and sent no later than October 1st. The average price of gas in North Carolina, at $4.50 on June 4th, is below the national average. And according to AAA, gas prices have risen by over 55% since the same time last year, when a gallon of regular cost around $2.89 on average. And when the crisis hit demand for crude oil and its price plummeted as countries shut down and people sheltered at home, this had the knock-on effect of creating a massive surplus of the fossil fuel and forcing producers to dial back production. Despite President Biden ordering the largest release from the strategic reserve in U.S. history, the 1 million barrels a day have not been able to significantly reverse upward pressure on prices. And while there has been much talk about a pending recession as the Federal Reserve takes steps to tamp down high inflation, recent reports on the health of the economy show cooling, but still going strong. This is good news for the White House as the American public becomes increasingly concerned about the rapid rate that prices are increasing at. The Labor Department released data on weekly unemployment claims, the most timely data on the economy's health, which showed new claims unexpectedly fell last week. The following day, a report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics showed strong job growth in continuing in May, 2 years after the crisis began, causing unemployment to spike to nearly 50%. The U.S. has nearly returned to unemployment highs of February 2020, and the strong demand for workers has created a labor shortage, with 11 million jobs. Across the U.S., the number of Americans collecting jobless benefits after the initial week of aid ticked down to around 34,000 for the week ending May 21st. Folks, do you think that President Biden is doing all that it takes to help out the American people with stimulus checks, or do you believe that he must do a better job on this? Tell me what you think in the comments down below. I personally believe that President Biden must do a better job in sending us stimulus payments.
$5.3 trillion. While some of this spending was unwise, other programs like the Paycheck Protection Program provided much needed relief to employers and businesses devastated by the pandemic. One particular area of concern is the COVID-19 Economic Industry Disaster Loan Program, otherwise known as EIDL. This program, unlike others' relief program, was direct lending by the SBA, the Small Business Administration. This means the agency did not partner with our local banks and credit unions and instead approved and administered these loans directly. Since the COVID-19 EIDL funding passed, we've learned of countless cases of fraud, waste, and abuse. The federal government is simply not set up to be a direct lender. There is obviously room for improvement in providing additional oversight and returning fraudulently awarded funds.
And let me thank our witness for your work. The infrastructure bill is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this country. So your role is critically important to make sure we do it right. We were very clear that environmental justice is one of our goals in regards to how we rebuild our infrastructure in America. I was proud that included in this bill was the removal of lead from our water pipe systems, that we have reconnecting communities that have been divided by highways that were destructive to the residential communities. And the list goes on and on. We have resiliency into this, etc. My own state of Maryland has a Maryland Environmental Justice Screening Tool. You have the White House Climate and Environmental Screening tool that's available. Let me ask you how you intend to implement the use of these tools with the opportunities that we have with the infrastructure bill to make sure that we are sensitive to the community's needs, that we recognize that The communities that have been hit the hardest as a result of climate change have been low-income communities. The communities that have been hit the hardest in regards to our efforts to build interstate roads have been our low-income communities. How do you intend to use this opportunity to make sure that, in fact, we carry out our commitment for environmental justice?
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that question because the work that CEQ is doing has environmental justice kind of squarely at the center of our priorities. And what the president has directed in the early executive orders, including the specific direction that we do a screening tool, is that we use the tool to help decide how we prioritize the allocation of resources and benefits to communities, to make sure that the folks who have been underserved in the past, whose communities have been underinvested in, are among those that receive the benefits of the federal investment. And that is the goal of the tool. The tool is it's a mapping tool. It allows us to prioritize areas where the programs have that show that communities have high air pollution, that show that the communities have high impacts to climate impacts, that show that there is a high health burdens, and these are the things that are built into deciding how we focus on the communities who need the most help. And our idea is that once the tool is finalized, that this will be a resource that the agencies look to as they're trying to make decisions that relate to their funding.
Well, I hope, I'm very supportive of that. I just hope you'll keep us engaged at every stage. This is a relatively new opportunity that we have, and we want to make sure that we actually take advantage of it. So I would appreciate you keeping our committee informed as to how this tool is in fact working in practice in dealing with these issues. I want to ask you one additional question on America the Beautiful initiative by the administration, and what role you'll play in regards to working with the private sector to expand the lands that are protected through conservation under the America the Beautiful initiative. Will your office play a role in this?
Absolutely. This is one of our central activities. I, in fact, chair a committee working with Secretary Holland, Secretary Vilsack, and Secretary Raimundo. We're managing the America the Beautiful initiative across the government. And the key about the America the Beautiful initiative is that it is